Hi and good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me properly. If somebody could just put in the chat that everything is all good and you can see four of us and hear me, that would be great because we have had a couple of technical issues before. Thank you so much for attending our Flexa Careers and Teamtailor joint webinar about how the traditional hiring process that we have been experiencing for the last couple of decades is, in our opinion, dead. But what does that actually mean? So we're going to be talking to our panel of experts here about why candidate demands have changed, how they hire, how they suggest to other people that hiring should be done. And also ultimately, what are the new alternatives? What does this new reality of hiring really look like? Just a quick introduction to me before I give over the mic to other people. So I'm Molly. I am the CEO and co-founder of Flexa Careers. We are an employer brand and talent attraction platform. Sounds like, what is that? Well, we work with truly flexible companies to get them discovered by hundreds of thousands of users all over the world as genuinely great places to work. And at the bottom of this screen here, you can see a little green banner. There is our free benchmarking. You can do it any time. It takes 60 seconds, and that will tell you, how flexible and how great is your working environment, and have you done enough to attract and appeal to the candidates' demands of today. So feel free to take that anytime. There is no obligation to do anything. You'll just be contacted with some nice insights for you. But I'm going to hand over to Fredrik from Teamtailor to introduce himself now.
Thank you so much, Molly. And I'm excited to be here because 2 hours ago, I did not know I was going to be doing this webinar because I was thrown in last minute. My colleague Shaheen was supposed to be joining you guys today, but he had a quick emergency that he had to deal with. So I was called in to step in. So for those of you expecting Shaheen here and really looking forward to hear what he said, I'm sorry, but you'll have to be stuck with me. But I'm the head of partnerships at Teamtailor. So I manage all of our partners globally at the company, and I've been there for quite a while and been doing quite a few webinars. So hopefully you'll bear with me. But Teamtailor, in essence, we're a recruiting software, an all-in-one recruiting software. So we try to help companies with everything throughout the recruiting process. So how do you reach more candidates? How do you attract candidates? How do you make sure that these people that you've actually attracted and got into your page to actually apply for your jobs, and then throughout the rest of the recruiting process as a more traditional ATS in that sense. So yeah, exciting to be here. You're muted, Molly.
Okay, sorry. Jesus, I can't believe I still do that. You think after 2 years, some of us might have learned. Katrina, I'll hand over to you.
Hello. That's so hilarious because I went to unmute myself and was already unmuted. So that was good. So I keep having to mute myself because of my dogs. Hello, I'm Katrina Collier. I'm probably best known as the author of the Robot Proof Recruiter. If you haven't bought a copy, please buy 5. I did donate my royalties to charity. It's also amazing. I work with companies to clear their collaboration chaos. So what I mean by that is to get HR, hiring managers, and recruiters all on the same page, delivering an exceptional candidate experience. And I run a mastermind program, which is all about empowering recruiters to be the best they can be, as Debbie, who's in the chat, has been through as well. And hello to everybody who's tuning in from around the world. How amazing.
Awesome. And last but not least, Tom.
Hey guys, I'm Tom Fairey. I am the founder of Stakester, which is a competition platform in the gaming world for video games. I'm also the host of the Back Yourself show, which is a startup podcast where I think the reason I'm here is because I bang on constantly about 99% of what you do in your business is irrelevant if you have an amazing team. And then it's also 99% of it's irrelevant if you have a rubbish team. And so the process of recruiting and getting the best people in is the most important thing you can do. And so I bang on about that all the time. And so I'm delighted to be here and talk about these things.
Awesome. Thank you very much for those intros. So I think that a lot of us here can agree, and I'm assuming that a lot of people are tuning in from people teams or HR teams. It's a very difficult hiring market at the moment. Obviously, the world of work has changed unrecognizably over the last 2 years. And I know that Katrina and I were talking the other day about how, in my opinion, it's one of the hardest hiring markets. But Katrina said it has happened to be this hard before. So I'd love to hear a bit of kind of your opinion about how difficult it's been in the past to hire and why we've kind of come to this crux point in recruitment and why it's getting so difficult again now.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's not quite as hard as it's been before. Close. Why we've got here, so I think what I was referring to was the world became transparent when the internet, like if you anyone who started my book knows I talk about the internet was actually the huge thing that changed recruitment. So suddenly, compared to when I was growing up, where you couldn't see how many jobs were out there, you can see company reputations, all this sort of stuff. But how we've got here now is we overfired in 2020, and we're trying to overhire 2021, 2022, and there's a catch-up game going on. And then there's a whole ton of people who've just sat in the pandemic going, oh my God, what am I doing? I don't want to do this anymore. The great resignation, reassessment, whichever buzzword you'd like to call it. And they're kind of going, I want to change. I'm not going to leave this career. So there's also a loss of people there. So it's just a lot of catch up.
Yeah.
And that's what's creating this market. But I also feel that there are a lot of people that suddenly have had to become quite technology savvy who weren't before, who are now more confident, looking on the internet for jobs, interviewing from home while they're meant to be working, all this kind of stuff. So there's a real shift in this whole attitude which is going on. So it's exciting time. But yeah, in my entire career, I've never seen it so candidate owned, I'd call it. Not even driven, just owned. They own it. Companies now need to appreciate the fact that people want to work for them. It's a very different world, certainly from the one I started out in as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think people consume more information about a company before applying than ever before. Like, it's no longer as simple as, although obviously some people do it. And I know that if you've ever posted a job on LinkedIn and turned on easy apply, then you'll know what I'm talking about, where people just apply to 250 jobs without reading anything. But generally now people are more discerning about where they apply to. They only want to apply to the places that meet their expectations. And that could be expectations in terms of the primary search, which is that I am a strategy manager and I'm looking for a strategy manager job, your simple traditional job hunt. But there's an emerging secondary search now as well, which is I want to work from home 3 days a week and I have a dog that I want to bring into the office. How do I find those things that also fit that criteria? Which I guess is where the importance of employer brand comes in. And obviously, Fredrik, you are Teamtailor, not you. You're not a platform, you're a person. Teamtailor is very focused on that employer brand element. So I'd love to hear about the kind of the drivers behind why you decided to make an ATS that was focused on that employer brand.
No, but I think it's when you break it down, it's obvious because lots of the things we've spoken about. The candidate market has shifted so much drastically, especially now in the last 2 years. But we started way before that. But if you just break it down to the last 2 decades, not even like the internet at itself, but like starting from the smartphone era and everything that has happened from there, how accessible everything is nowadays. Like every single person alive can access pretty much every single information in the world directly from within their pockets. We also see this like the huge boom in social media and the shift of like the attention span is just going lower and lower and lower. I know if you probably know someone who has a kid, you have kids yourself, or you have a younger sibling who's addicted to TikTok, and the attention span and instant gratification that can come with that. We just, as soon as you're bored, you scroll forward. Which makes it even harder for companies to stand out from the crowd. And plus the addition that the younger generations, the millennials that we've long been spoken about, the Generation Z, the even younger generation, they have different expectations on the secondary primary targets that they're looking for in a company. They need a company that fits their culture needs and their environmental goals. They don't want to work for big oil companies anymore because they're concerned about the environment, even though the big oil companies might be the ones paying the most. And that shift has also been a huge differentiating factor. So why we got into the employer branding side of things is frankly because our founders ran a company prior and they realized that we can't recruit. Like the people we're trying to hire, we're not getting them. We have everything in terms of the culture and the company we want to build. We have a great team. Everybody loves working here. They're repping the company colors. They're good. The afterworks, everything you want to do, like textbook company culture back then. But like if you looked at this company from the outside, the only thing you saw was like a list of jobs. This is a great company. Like there was no way for you to do research because you need to also break it down with these 2 different candidates. The passive candidates, the ones who are doing the vast majority of the research, who are actually doing research before they take that leap of faith, they will want to do research. While you will also have the easy apply ones that will just apply for volume because it's a numbers game for them because they need a job right here, right now. But the vast majority of the people, especially like in sectors like tech, engineering, sales, C-level, they will do research because they will want to know that before they take that leap of faith, they will want to know that the grass is greener on the other side. And there wasn't a good way to support that. So we wanted to provide that in an easy way to companies as well.
Yeah, and Tom, I know that you absolutely agree with the notion that there are lots of people, really good people, are sitting there in jobs doing their research rather than necessarily actively applying for jobs right now. So we've obviously been talking about the macro trends, but Tom, can you tell me what you actually do to hire people, to give us people some useful and actionable advice?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'll start off. Yeah, I think so. First of all, I hate job boards, and I hate I just all of that, because every time I put a post out for a job, I just feel like I've got 7,000 people applying for it who either aren't very good and aren't right for the job, but they're just filling out loads of jobs, as you said. And then my team spend ages just filtering through rubbish to find people who aren't very good. And then at the other end of it, there's people at the other end who are really committing to this and really putting loads of time in. I feel like this is just not very fair on them either, to say, look, fill out this complicated job process. So this is not helpful for you. And I don't think you should hire people on CVs anyway. I think you should hire people based on who they are right now, not who they were 2 years ago. The fact that I got an A in theatre studies doesn't mean I'm going to be good at my job. Ironically, it does, because I'm a performer. But I think that's the problem with it. And so when we started Stakester, I was a bit like, look, it's so the reason it's hard to find people now is because it's so easy to change jobs. Okay, back in the day when I was working in the office all the time, if I left a job, I had to say goodbye to all my five-a-side football mates, that girl that I was convinced I was in love with in accounts. Like, I had to leave all of that and walk away. And that was going to be a hard thing to do. Whereas now, if I want to change jobs, I just have to close my laptop on a Friday and then open it up on a Monday, and I've got a new job, and it's exactly the same experience. So that was so it's so easy to do it. There's no emotional attachment there a lot of the time if you work remotely. And so I decided that what we wanted to do is we wanted to find people that were, well, first of all, like, the best people aren't looking for jobs. The best people aren't. They've got great jobs already. They're not applying. They're there. You've got to find those people. And so we decided, let's focus on this employer branding world, which we knew nothing about. And let's focus on making our company look really attractive, not just from like an investment perspective or a customer perspective, but from an employment perspective. Let's make it look amazing so that when people come and look at our business, they think, holy moly, this place looks like an amazing place to work. And so we started hanging out in areas where the kind of people we wanted, who shared our values, where they were hanging out. We're in the gaming space, so we hang out in gaming forums, talking about how amazing it is to have a boss like me, those kind of things. And so we did that, and we were hanging out in those areas and hoping that would attract people, and it works. The truth is, you get fewer people applying, but the people who are applying are people who really care about what you're doing, really believe in your mission. And you can tell me to shut up in a minute, because I'm going to go on a little bit. And I am going to talk about Flexa, which I know I'm not supposed to do, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I have this thing where I don't want someone to just work for me because they think that my brand and my company is amazing. I also want to make sure that I fit the lifestyle that they want, because if they're happy in their life and their work-life balance and the environment they work in, they're going to be happy working for me, and they're going to do a better job. And so if I can find people who say, look, we're big on flexibility, but we like people coming to the office if they want to come in. We like people work from home if they want to work remotely. Like, whatever someone's environment is they want to work in, I want to know about that. I want to know about what they want before they come here. So they're not going to turn up and then get all the way through the interview process and then say to me, oh, actually, yeah, I just want to work on a Sunday. Yeah. And I want to know how the people actually want to operate before they come here, so we can align to that. And then everyone's happy, and then we're winning. I went on for a bit longer there, Molly, than you probably anticipated.
That's great. I absolutely agree with that. I think it's the transparency of exactly what it's like to work there is key. I also realized I missed some very basic housekeeping at the beginning of the webinar. If you have a question, there is a really snazzy ask a question bit at the bottom there, which means that we will get to all of your questions. So anyone in the audience that wants to ask a question, please pop it in there. And then in the second half of the webinar, we will start directly answering your questions. They can be really, really specific. How do I do this? How do I achieve this outcome? Or much broader, if you just want to get people's thoughts on things. But yeah.
Can I just say something then,
of course,
Molly? I think in gaming, you're absolutely right. Everything you just said is absolutely right. In STEM, you're probably absolutely right. However, for those listening in, there are some really good people out there who have gaps on their CV because they just happen to be in the industry in 2020 where they were made redundant, and they just can't write their CV or they can't write their resume, and they have not been able to get their foot in the door. So please cut someone some slack with that as well. I know, like, recruiters recruiting recruiters, if you saw my LinkedIn rant about that the other day, you know, there are some amazingly talented people out there who just aren't getting given some slack. I agree in gaming, it's absolutely what you said, like, because it's that kind of industry, right? There's no reason actually in 2020 anyone in gaming it probably went the other way. I assume the industry got very busy. But for others, it was just, there's some really talented people out there who just, they're biased about people's gaps on their CV. This is quite heartbreaking.
Yeah,
and I just wanted to throw that in for people in other industries. Yeah. Sorry.
Fredrik,
just following that note, like in terms of hiring people based on experience, and the side note, we can get back to employer branding again. Just hiring people based on experience and what they've done in the past. Like, because if you just think of it from your own perspective, the people you went to high school, college with, you could have gone to school with the same people and had the exact same education and worked at the exact same company for 10 years, but they might not be the good person for the job. And like, if you start thinking of it from that perspective, the people you actually spent like 6 years with studying, you probably wouldn't hire them because you know that they're a good fit for something else. And just the focus of hiring based on experience doesn't really work in the natural workflow, because like it's so much more that comes into work. And adding to the previous note about like the culture and actually looking as a great employer, historically, at least my perception is that people just open the funnel wide, and they brought out the fishing trawler and they wanted to get everybody in. Doesn't matter who they are. That was the ambition. Volume was the key, and just get as many people as in. And if that meant the company culture and what they perceived as was like, that was bland, because they had to appeal to every single audience. I see the best companies right now, they're actually like doubling down on what makes them unique. If they have a really, really nerdy culture, which applies quite well to gaming companies, they just go nuts with the nerdy culture, because that's the kind of people they want to attract. They know that the people who are nerdy will be attracted there because they will work better there and they will enjoy it there, instead of just broadening it down. And you can do that specifically for certain departments. If you know that your sales team is like the finance people from Wolf of Wall Street, yeah, well, do that. And the gaming team, like the tech team, is the nerdy team. Like, you can still be personalized and just double down on your strengths.
You're giving people the option to
you called me a nerd.
Yeah, I did.
But you're giving people the option to deselect, leave the recruitment process as well, which I think is incredibly important.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that most people are looking for like, how has that company treated its people over this time as well? And I don't think they've done that in the past. And then, that goes back to those gaps, whether those gaps matters and the support that they're offering, the mental health support, obviously my menopause rant this week as well, all that sort of stuff. Like, what's the support?
Yeah.
So
people are looking at so much more. And one thing that I do hope that will happen as a result of it being harder to hire is that rather than companies using job descriptions as a way to basically say, here are 12 requirements that we have, this is all what you have to have, this is why you should want to, not even why you should want to work for us, it's like, this is why should we hire you, are you enough, you should be so lucky to get an interview off the back of this. And that's how job descriptions have been quite traditionally formatted. It's just a list of, you must have all of this. And I think as it's getting harder to hire, my hope is that the companies that erroneously thought that that was the right way to write a job description are starting to lower their very, very unrealistic standards. And say, actually, we might have a list of these 12 requirements, but if you have 60% of them, like, you're still a great candidate. And there's so much research on particularly the gender bias when it comes to the kind of treatment that men and women have of job descriptions. Men are likely to just give it a punt if they've got 60% of the requirements, because men generally are more confident in their own beliefs. Whereas women, they want to meet 100% of the requirements. So very often job descriptions saying these are all must-haves will mean that you're actually preventing often a lot of women from applying.
Yeah. But that goes back to and I can see it in the comments that are coming up from my earlier gap comment, the recruiters need to have the data on what's really going on in the marketplace, and then almost the audacity, the confidence, the influencing skills, the empathy and compassion to push back on their hiring managers and say, like, this is what's going on. Because actually, I think the recruiters on the front line get it. I don't think the hiring managers get it yet, because it's not painful enough for them yet to be able to push back. And I actually think it's more than employer brand. You've got to have a proper intake strategy session with hiring managers. You need to really get under the skin of the role and the opportunity, and like, so that actually you can go and say, hey, this person isn't quite right, but I can see they've got potential to grow in this role. And then also they're going to, recruiters are going to stand out when they're making approaches to people as well, because they know more than that list of skills that you just mentioned. But until we get recruiters stronger, I've been waiting for my dogs to do that, and they amazingly didn't. There's always that beautiful thing when you're on a call that the dogs go. But until recruiters get better at that partnering with hiring managers and really getting under the skin of the roles and getting more information, I just don't see it changing as much as we would like. On this call, we'd all like it to change.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Be interested to hear, Tom, then how you handle your hiring when it comes to like, who are the hiring managers, who's the talent acquisition, who's in charge of deciding who's hired, interviewed, writing all of those job adverts, etc.
It's different. So, Fredrik, I'd cut in there. I should have politely asked you if you wanted to go first, but yeah, it's webinar. What's it called? Politeness. So yeah, I think. I don't think anyone's amazing at hiring. I don't think anyone's amazing. I think anyone who thinks they're amazing just needs to forget that and just constantly work towards getting better all the time. It's an infinite curve, and you get there over time and you get better, but no one's exceptional, and you always make mistakes. But I think in a startup, if you're early stage, it's slightly more different. Well, there's a nuance to it, because a lot of the time I'm hiring people to do stuff that I have no idea how to do. That's why I'm hiring them. And I don't have anyone to compare them to. Someone needs to be like, oh no, we need a data scientist. I mean, what does that person do? So it's like, it's quite hard.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, but we took a different approach, which sounds a little bit like Maximy, but we were like, look, stop telling me what you're great at and just show me. Show me something amazing. Show me something that's going to blow me away. Tell me what I should be doing and why you're going to be amazing at this and why I should hire you and no one else. And show me that. And we took that approach because I didn't know that if I go into a situation like I was a sales guy, and so like I know exactly what I want in a sales guy because you've hired hundreds of them before. But if I'm hiring someone in marketing, or I'm hiring someone in HR or finance or whatever, I don't know. Yeah. And the things are changing all the time. And they might bring something from their previous job and their previous experience, which is incredible and should be completely different and a new way of doing something. So I want them to come in and tell me how to be amazing and show me how I can improve what I'm doing. And so I think the attitude that we always took was, if someone is teaching me something and teaching me that I'm doing everything wrong and they should be doing it entirely differently, I'm like, I should probably hire this person. Yeah. And we have the big thing here is like tenure doesn't mean that you're great. Just because you've been working somewhere longer doesn't mean you should be paid more. Doesn't mean you're better at your job or whatever. It doesn't mean that. Yeah. And a lot of the time, sometimes it means the opposite. And so when you hire people, don't give them a different amount of money because they've been working for longer or they're older or whatever. Pay people the same or whatever they feel that they're worth, because they're all doing the same job when they come in. Anyway, that's my experience. And
Fredrik, did you have something to say there before we?
No, I think he filled in the gaps that weren't necessary. There's a billion talking points you can probably fill into, but I think it's I can just concur with what he said.
100%. I think also something that I wanted to talk about, and I'm sure people have very strong opinions on this, is the length of recruitment and interview processes. Because I've heard some horror stories recently that, despite obviously being in such a difficult hiring market, people are being put through 5, 6, 7 stage interview processes, with tasks, some of which are then they never hear from people again. So
you say that, Molly, is a very good way to get free labor.
Yeah,
so it's like,
worry, isn't it?
Can you guys come up with a really good marketing campaign for me? You get 5 or 6 of them, and then you're sorted for the next year. Yeah.
That's a real problem. And I think hopefully again, because of the need to hire quickly, and also obviously a lot of people just won't put up with 7 interviews. Hopefully that will change. But Katrina, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on horrible interview processes.
Okay, oh God, so many different answers, and I'm trying not to swear. Do you know what? It actually goes back to the fact that, and go and look up Sue Ingram's Disrupt HR talk about this. What happens is you've got a great engineer, and we'll go, oh my God, they're a great engineer. Let's promote them and make them a manager, and then let's not support them. And her Disrupt HR talk is absolutely hilarious because she basically goes, we promote them and then they die. It's very dramatic. But what she's saying is that we don't support people. So they then don't know how to articulate what it is that they want. They need someone for their team and they don't know how to recruit. They don't know how to explain what they want. They don't know how to interview. And then they're full of doubt and self-doubt and all of that, all those beautiful buzzwords that we have for that. And so therefore they're trying to recruit and they just keep going through more and more and more and more and more and more interview processes because they literally don't know what they want. If we actually got back to investing in leadership training and really supporting our managers, I think a lot of the problems that are certainly coming up in the chat as well would be resolved. that you know, people would feel like they understood what they were recruiting for. And going back to, you know, if you are a recruiter and there are these stupid tasks and you know, you've got to go in with your data into these meetings. I know Lizzie was saying that she can't, they're so high volume, she can't even get an intake strategy session with her hiring managers. I personally wouldn't work on their role until you got one. You need to know from your TA leader that you have that support and just say no until it's so painful that they'll give you their time, because you will save them so much time and yourself time, but you don't tell them that. And then it's like go in with the data and go in with the ammunition and explain how it's ruining your candidate experience, it's ruining your reputation, you know, not just the employer brand we're putting out there, but the reviews and all that sort of stuff. And then just to finish off with ghosting. If we ghost people, we leave them feeling down or depressed. When candidates ghost recruiters, we feel a bit pissed off for a day, we get over it, we move on, right? We're leaving people feeling down and depressed. Your hiring managers or recruiters should not be leaving anybody feeling down or depressed, because one, it's going to cost you bottom line because they won't buy your products and services. But do you think they're going to refer one single person to work at your company? No. So no ridiculous interview processes to lead to ghosting or anything really. You know, we don't. They're giving you their time. They deserve feedback. I think that was a quite elongated rant, but you know.
But it's so true, and like ghosting has just become
disgusting.
It's everywhere, like it really is. And I think
I've been talking about it for years and years and years, and it's just got worse. And I just can't believe it's got worse.
It's the candidate experience is fundamentally what starts to build an employer brand. And if people are saying terrible things about your company in the interview process, then that is eventually going to come back to bite you, because people will write about it online.
Yeah, because these are within reach. We have no excuse not to go back to somebody. Yeah. They're within reach all the time. How hard is it to go back to someone?
The thing is, I'm constantly shocked by how low the bar is set for the vast majority of these companies, and a lot of it comes down to just people not doing it well, and people not having the education, people not having the training on how to do it. If you actually did the groundwork prior to actually posting the job, what kind of profile am I looking for? What do I want to do? Instead of a process like in this stage I want to look for this, in this stage I want to look for this, and then I'm set, because then we'll solve it. And also with the amount of of course I'm biased because I work at a company that provides a service like this, but there are a gazillion tools that can help you just automate that. Like, it doesn't have to be you calling every single person every single time. You can still give them that same kind of experience, but it could be done pretty much automatically. And you can still catch up those like silver medalists or the ones you don't want to hear from now because you don't want to hire.
But humanly automatic.
Yeah, but you can have the human touch in an automatic way. It's like update them on stuff without it even adding more stuff, more time to your every day, but it just overall improves the overall experience.
I completely agree with that. I do think that to some extent, sometimes it is unrealistic to be able to do it personally every time. Like, I do understand the massive burden on companies. Like the last job descriptions that we put out, we had 500 applications for each one, and we're a team without talent people. Like, we couldn't reply to every single one individually, and so we couldn't necessarily do that personal touch. But I think the most important thing is, if you are giving an relatively automated early stage rejection, is to say, you know, if you would like personal feedback, then please do reach out to me. Like, don't leave people feeling stuck, because it makes, if say you're sending out 450 rejections from the first batch and you're not interviewing those people, that will probably be we didn't feel that you necessarily met the criteria for the role. But if you would like further feedback, then please do reach back. Not those 450 people, not all of them are going to come back. We had 4 of that 450 come back, and like, of course you can make time for those 4 people. So it's, I always say that, I always say it's 1 in 100. You just proved my point. But it's automating the process, but allowing people to also feel supported and treated like a human being.
And you could also say, hey, here are some job search tips. Like, you know, Career Sherpa Hannah Morgan is one of my favorite job search people. Go and read her stuff. Like, there's just send them somewhere so they feel like they've got a next natural step to take as well.
Yeah.
It's adding that human. It was funny, somebody sent one, shared one on LinkedIn that they thought was really human, that had come out of Johnson & Johnson. And it was like, there are 3 reasons that you might have been rejected. And it said, oh, thanks, your background's really impressive, but there are 3 reasons you might have been rejected. And it was like, timing, or we'd changed the role, or, you just weren't right. And it was like, really? You just said their background's impressive and then given them 3 different reasons that might, so that's why I'm saying it's so important how you phrase that as well.
Exactly. And it needs to feel relevant to that person. As you said, if you're just giving 3 completely different reasons, then they're obviously going to query that.
They just don't want to be sued. They're covering their butt.
Yeah. In order to finish this bit of the webinar, I would like to ask each panelist, before we go on to questions, for brief advice on what you would give to hiring managers, HR teams, people teams, to make the best of the current hiring market. Fredrik, I will go to you first.
Okay, yeah. So I think the number 1 is do the groundwork first. Actually do the job first, so you actually know what kind of person you're looking for. You actually know the criteria, you actually know the profile you're looking for, so you actually know what to look for. And then you can design a recruiting process that actually is designed for you to look at those stages, and you can set up processes that allows you to save up time, so you can actually make sure that everybody gets feedback. Even it doesn't have to be like personalized, but at least everybody gets something, which is great. Yeah. Number 2 is transparency. You can't be treat yourself like you are the god, the best employer ever, and then everybody else at your company says it's awful. The best kind of feedback and the best kind of stuff is when employees themselves are just speaking about your company. If you can get your employees to just say how much they love working there, that will be so much more valuable than you spending £1 million on a employer branding video saying how great we are. I think that's the 2 main things, like authenticity and just doing the groundworks, because that will help save you so much time and just improve the overall experience for everything else.
100% agree with that. Tom, what advice would you give?
I think the first piece of advice I give is, no, I was just thinking about it. One of them got stolen by Fredrik there, but I'm going to repeat it in my own words to make it sound like my own. I think the first thing is if your company, if you wouldn't be really proud to have anyone walk into your business, walk around your office, or sit on a Zoom call with you, your company isn't very good. You need to change things, okay? You need to create a culture that you want to shout about and the people in your business shouting about it. And if they're not doing it themselves already, if they're not on LinkedIn saying, oh, this amazing thing happens, we did this amazing thing. If they're not posting on Twitter, I did this amazing thing, and I feel really proud of myself for achieving it, and I was given the opportunity or whatever. If they're not doing that, then you've got a problem, okay? Because people should be doing that anyway. Because if you think you have a company full of introverts, that might be true, but there'll be some in there that are the kind of people who want to brag about how great their life is. And so you need to make sure that you are creating an environment which they are proud of and they want to brag about, because that is the best way to attract people to your business, exactly as Fredrik said. Your employees talking about how amazing their life is during work hours, that's the best advert you can ever have, and you will get the best talent possible for it. So ask yourself those difficult questions, like, is this actually an environment that people are happy about? And if it's not, we need to change it.
Don't polish a turd, basically.
Yeah. Much more eloquent there. Lovely. Okay.
Particularly in Molly's accent. It sounds very posh.
Yes, exactly.
In mine, it just sounds like shit.
The other thing about it is, I say, look, you need to when you're hiring people at the moment, I think you have to have more on the table than other people. Like, that's the truth of it. Like, you can't come in and be like, yeah, so you can work flexibly between the hours of 9 and 5 Monday to Friday. Yeah, if you, as long as you can, it's not, you've got to actually, you have to genuinely innovate and genuinely give people the opportunity, something different. We have a 7-day work week policy, which sounds like you work 7 days a week, but basically we said you work whenever the fuck you want, any day you want, anytime you want. You're here to do a job, and as long as you get that job done, I don't care when you do it. And so you have to be finding ways to innovate, to make yourself more attractive to more people, because it is competitive. And if you are, and you don't have deep pockets, and you can't pay people a ton of more than everyone else, you have to find other ways to differentiate. And happiness and fulfillment are the biggest differentiators. And the biggest way to do that is to give people freedom I'm spitting. I'm so passionate. And that's going to help people attract people to your business. So people, I like when people say it's really hard, I don't agree. I don't think it's really hard. I think it's just different. I think it's like it's always been hard. Like it's always been hard. Like I worked in a bank in the lead up to 2008, where they said it was really hard because everyone got paid too much money. Yeah, but like that's a different type of hard, you know. And then after the crash, because I'm 1,000 years old, it was hard because there wasn't any money. Like it just changes. That's all it is. It just changes. And the new way now is you just have to give people more freedom. There you go.
Absolutely. Katrina, what would your parting advice be?
So more freedom. So for those who are here, who are in-house recruiters, talent acquisition, HR, I want you to demand those intake strategy sessions. I want you to demand them, right? Hiring manager, I'm not working on this role until you give me the time up front because I need that information. This is not the marketplace for me to just go and hope I find the person and just ruin our reputation. I need that information. And you need to be so supported by your leaders in that area that you can just say no and come back to me. Because you are going to save that hiring manager so much time. And that's why you need to feel empowered to be able to say no. Also, not just because this is Flexa, literally because I can't quite comprehend there's still companies that aren't allowing hybrid. If you work at a company that is not planning on offering hybrid, leave. There's lots and lots of other companies out there because this is the future. This is the future, right? And you know, you don't have to be trying to get people to come and work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You know, as Tom was just saying, I actually work on Sundays. I mean, I do work for myself, so I love Sundays. I tend to not really work on Friday. It's so quiet. No one's around. Nobody emails me. I can just concentrate and get on with stuff. I like to work when I'm in flow. I would love to see that was the future, that people were able to do that. But the other thing to understand for those of you who are younger, we have come a really long way in a really short period of time. I am going to go with 30 years because it's possibly a smidgen over. But I started my first proper professional job 30 years ago. And we didn't have any visibility. We didn't have an internet we could search for jobs on. It was just, you know, the newspaper on the weekend. It was carrot and the stick management. It was fear. You never left another job without another job. And my God, did you work 9 to 5? Well, probably more like 8 to 6. But that's how it was. So you have to help your senior leaders understand that the world has changed. Because not all of them are like me, who's, you know, forever searching on the internet and savvy, and like they're not all like that. They're all in their little bubble doing their job, and they don't understand what job seekers can see. So I would totally recommend sitting with them and showing them and explaining to them and giving them data and evidence and show what your competitors are doing and persuade them. Because they don't mean to be the way they are. They just don't understand that the world's changed. It's been the patriarchy for so long. It is finally starting to fall, but it's going to need a little help. So go persuade them.
Yeah.
Rant over.
That's great. That's really, really good advice, though. Really, really good advice for everybody. And I will put in mind.
I think it's hard. I don't see the kids get it. Sorry. We all these. It's a really different world for us.
Can I add one thing there? I think it's because we have real life examples at Teamtailor of this scenario where we're talking about like creating a culture where people want to work, where people are actually screaming it, and it doesn't have to be like Tom said, where people are writing LinkedIn posts, say I love my job. Sometimes it's the smallest things, and I don't think companies realize the kind of exposure and transparency you have, like an everyday person has access to. Like they can know somebody at your company that posts an Instagram story of the after work and just saying I love my job. Mm-hmm. That could be enough for the senior developer at Facebook to be like, I hate my job. I just had a bad fight with my boss. Go on their phone and apply for a job at your company. Yeah. Like that's how you attract people. The kind of transparency, the kind of authenticity that you won't get from anywhere else. And it's entirely transparent. Like Molly said, you can't paint a turd. Like it is like that. You have to work on your culture. You have to work on your company. That's the number one.
Yeah, and I think it's also okay to say, like, you know, we've got this challenge at the moment. Do you want to come and help us fix it? Because we don't know what we're doing. You can also have the negative as well. Yeah. As long as it's real.
Can I add 2 points? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Last thing. If you don't know where to start, ask people. Like the HR community, they're so helpful on helping share what they know. Like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can't speak properly. Like just ask people how they're doing it. Try to steal with pride and then adapt that to fit your company. Like if it's your recruiting process, talking to hiring managers, ask people, ask your network, ask people you've studied with, people you work with, or on LinkedIn, like I need help. People will share so much information, and you just steal with pride, because that will be so much better than you trying to reinvent the wheel and starting from scratch.
Still with credit.
I wanted to add one thing to that, just so people are listening. If someone says that a company remote first or remote only isn't flexible, don't let people trick you into believing that it's amazing because you're remote first. People always say, oh, yeah, we're remote first. It's really futuristic. It's actually like, if you are someone like me, I've got kids. Working from home is the worst thing possible. No, I actually want to kill myself. So don't. So if someone says that, don't let an employer trick you into thinking that's flexible. And someone asked a question earlier about how do you make flexible work at a company-wide level? Don't try to make it work at a company-wide level. Make it work in individual teams. Marketing teams may want to be in front of people more often. And so they may end up having office days where they want to work together. Let the teams decide individually. It doesn't work on a company level. You just have to give full flexibility and give the freedom to the individual teams to figure out how they want to work. Because like, if you've got a group of developers, they couldn't care less about going in the office. But extroverted people in marketing and sales, they probably do want to be in the office a few days a week. So let people individually decide.
Absolutely.
And then that goes back to the leadership needing training and support and how to do this, and not have any bias, presenteeism, all this sort of stuff. So we have a journey to get through, but it's so exciting that we're on it.
I absolutely agree with all of that. So to summarize, I think on that one, it's very clear that things have changed enormously. Tom, I completely agree with you on the remote thing, that we get so much pushback from companies that do our flexification benchmarking, and they say, but we're remote, we should be the most flexible. And we did our Flexa 100, which is the top 100 most flexible companies, was released yesterday. And we did have some pushback from companies where they're like, but we're remote, we should be at the top. And it's like, it's very different. Choice is very different to forcing people to be at home or forcing people to be hybrid. Choice is what wins. And with that in mind, the parting advice that I would say as a summary from what everyone said is give people the information to self-select in or out. Don't hide everything until the last minute. There's no point. It wastes your time. It wastes their time. Try and think about the channels that are going to get enough eyes on your company that ultimately, even if only 20% of people go, that's the company I want, that is enough people for you, because you've already refined them down into a bunch of people that have huge potential to be great employees for you. Don't try and cast that net as wide as possible, and don't worry about scaring people off. If you are a fast-paced culture, you are in the office 2 days a week, no matter what, tell people, because there are people that want to work like that, and they will want to work for you. Don't try and pretend to be something that you're not, just because it's difficult. With that in mind, let's move on to questions. In the interest of time, I think we can tell we all have a lot of opinions.
Don't know what she's talking about, do you?
I am going to choose one person for each question so that we can get through all of the questions. If we can try and keep answers relatively snappy, because we probably only have about 90 seconds a question. So the first one, actually, these are two quite similar, actually. Attracting diverse talent and being inclusive as well. I'm going to take that one. And Tom had a bet on how quickly I would end up telling my story of being sacked because of having a chronic illness, and I made it 43 minutes, which is a new record.
It's pretty good. It's a new record. How long it took.
So the reason that we started Flexa and wanted to bring transparency to the global hiring market is because of my experience when I was working in investment banking. I have a chronic illness that means that sometimes I can't walk, and that back then, lack of sleep, stress, meant about once a week that I couldn't get into the office. So I asked to work from home once a week. And 10 days later, they put a settlement package in front of me, sacked me, and told me to leave immediately. From then on, I had about 3 years of obviously working, but also looking for a job constantly, because I never found quite the right fit. So from an inclusivity point of view, how do you attract talent that is diverse and inclusively? Tell people what is going to happen. Tell them what it's like to work at your company, so that they can make an educated decision about whether it's going to fit with them. The more open and honest you are, the more inclusive you are, because people understand and know, and make sure that's also the truth. Like as Tom said, don't be introspective about it. Is your company actually going to accept that there will be days where that person can't work sometimes? Or are they going to be happy that parent leaves at 3:30 every day? Are you actually happy? And then portray what your ways of working are like within that. I think that very often DEI, there's a lot of lip service that's paid to it, and I think people try to over-engineer it at the very beginning. The most important thing is building a really big pipeline of diverse talent. Then once you've got that, you can start to, in my opinion, it's more important to start with this and then make sure that your processes internally are also facilitating those people to work in an equitable and inclusive way too. But without the top bit, you can't do anything internally. So that is my advice on inclusivity, is transparency. Get onto the places that you know that people will be able to see about your company and build that diverse pipeline of talent that you want to work for you. Obviously, that's why we started Flexa, because there was nothing that was doing that. And obviously, flexibility and inclusivity go hand in hand. So don't send people back to the office every day either. So that's those two questions together. So start and done. I love this question function. It's great. The second question: what advice would you give to job seekers with excellent credentials but struggling to get to interview stage? Is it worth taking a risk to stand out in your application? Katrina, I think you will be the best one for this one.
Stop submitting your CV into a database black hole thing, the job board, right? Get strategic. What are the companies within your area if you want to stay, if you actually want to go into the office, and start finding your future hiring manager, who's your future boss. So you're a marketer, that's the director of marketing. Start approaching these people directly, like some bold LinkedIn connect requests. By the way, not everyone actually goes onto LinkedIn, so you might want to go and find them elsewhere. But start doing that. Network your way to a job opportunity. Don't just sit there waiting for a job. Molly was saying before, which I find that number staggering, 500 applications to one job. Don't be one of 500. Go and open a door. Back in the day, I would go to my dad, hey, Dad, I need a job. And he'd say, go talk to Uncle Rob, he'll find you a job. And that's how I would open a door. Do that online. You have this incredible opportunity to get in front of people. But I have 2 words for you. And I think you will, if I went through some of the people that were saying they're really struggling to get a job, I would say you're not doing this. So what? I want you to go through every single bullet point that you have put on your CV, resume, whatever we're calling it, and think, so what? Because then you will add your achievement. I don't really care that you worked on an Excel spreadsheet. What I want to know is the benefit to the company. I want someone to look at your profile and go, oh my gosh, I have to hire Molly now because she did this and she did this and she did this. Like, achieved. So what? Honestly, you'll understand when you go through and do it. But start networking, go to events, get in front of people. There's lots of free stuff like you've come here today to learn, and just find your way and talk in conversations about your skills, less about, oh God, this job search is so depressing, because it is. We know that. Honestly, even recruiters, we know that. But just show your expertise, become known, liked and trusted by people, and you'll be stunned at the doors that will open. I don't think that was under a minute, but I tried.
That was great advice though. I think that was absolutely true. I'd also add to say tailor your application to the company. It makes a difference. Fredrik, a good one for you. What sorts of changes can be implemented to keep up with this candidate-driven market?
Good question. I was sitting there almost nervous about what kind of questions would I get, especially with like bullseye answer from Katrina just previously, which is spot on. It's to make it difficult. No, but like what kind of changes? I think number one, you need to start working. Like, of course, there's a bias in it, but there's a proven bias. Like, you need to start using tools because the tools will leverage you to use data, and data is where you will make the decisions. If you actually just have an estimated guess, then that's probably going to be wrong. But if you start using tools that can start getting you data on what actually needs to be done. Plus, there's a huge benefit of working with some of these tools that allow you to speed up processes, still be like have the personal touch, still work close to hiring managers, and just like outsource that kind of stuff. Plus, you can collaborate better with certain teams, and it doesn't have to be an ETS like Teamtailor. It could be like dependent on your need and what your company's looking for. Then you just start looking for it because the more data you have, the more qualified you are to actually get those guesses to actually see. Because in this market, you will. Data, you will know which people are looking at jobs, which kind of people are leaving, how many people are leaving. Like all that kind of stuff is there for you to help you guide yourself to the right decision on how you need to, because every single company is different. Like I can say here and say, you need to do this, you need to become a better employer, you need to do this, but you might be the best employer and your problem is X, Y, Z. And using data will help you and your individual company figure out what you need to do in order to adapt to the market.
Great answer as well. Thank you very much. Tom. Gonna hit you with a really difficult one.
Okay.
So, a question that was on LinkedIn on one of the comments on one of our posts. Could we explain a bit more about why the power has moved to the hands of the candidate over the past 24 months?
Okay, controversially, I don't know that I think it has. I think at all times, all the process should always be even. Like, you know, as an employer, you should have an attractive. If you feel like the power has switched, then I think there's a problem with your business. You know, I think like your business should be super attractive and people should be fighting to work for you in the same way that you should be fighting really hard to make sure those great candidates that have come forward have 3 or 4 offers, and so you've got to work hard to get them. Like, I think there should be, if there's a power imbalance, one of you's doing something wrong. So if you're saying, oh, it's a company-led market, then that means that maybe the candidates need to work harder. If you're saying it's a candidate-led market, the companies need to work harder. I just think that I don't believe that. I think that the truth is, like, as long as there's supply and demand, there are jobs available and there are candidates available, and you know, you've just got to make sure that matching works. Yeah. That's my view.
I think that's a very good point. And if you do make yourself attractive as a company, then, like we've all talked about, it's perfectly possible to get great applications. Like 2 months ago, we had hundreds of applications for a single job. You have the same thing, Tom, but it's because you've invested time and effort into creating a great culture, a great place to work, and some things that people actually want. And I think it's because the people are moving away from the companies that don't do that. Yes. And they're the ones that are saying it's terrible.
Yes. Or hospitality.
Or hospitality, actually, yeah.
yeah, that's different, right? Yeah.
But it's never been such a problem as it is now in hospitality. Like, yeah. But I do agree with what you're saying. To a point.
Katrina, another one, someone has specifically asked for your opinion on this. They said,
you sure you want my opinion?
What would you cover in your strategy meetings with hiring managers? What should be on the agenda?
Oh, that's a chapter 5. I have a whole chapter. Oh God, it's like 5,000 words. You want to get the information they're not telling you. You want to know, like, what problem, these are Steve Levy questions, like what problem are they coming in to solve? What's their first week look like? Where are they going to be in 6 months? How will you know you've hired the right person at the end of 12 months? You know, it's like, where can they go with this role as well? Is there different directions they can go? And then of course, with, you know, now it really is like, okay, what's the situation, which we've been talking about, like how flexible is this role? Where do they need to be? Yeah. Those sorts of questions. Yeah. But I would be doing more than just talking to the hiring manager. If you can, you know, if you're within a company, you can go talk to the team as well, because they'll probably tell you stuff your hiring manager won't. But it's literally chapter 5. Sorry, there's so much in there.
There you go. check out the book.
I crowdsourced chapter 5.
I love a cheeky plug.
I donated my royalties. I plug it like nobody's business. If I actually earn from it, I don't think I would plug it at all. I'd be like, oh, it's like in my book.
Benevolent plugging. So the other question was, how should a good job description be written? We've actually written a blog about it, so I won't take up our time in answering that. I will pop that, but basically make it 2-sided, talk about why they should want to join your company, and divide the requirements into must have and nice to have, because that way you're not putting people off that don't meet 100% of the requirements. So that's my 3 top tips. More information on that is in that blog.
All about the candidate. Start with all about the candidate, so you hook them in. You can switch to you, but start with, you got seconds. You were talking about that TikTok thing. You've got seconds to hook them in. Yeah,
absolutely. We've got 2 more. So
we're doing well. We've got 5
throw this one to the floor. Don't all fight over it. So do you think that companies now are more open to hiring people without the experience for a specific role, as many more people are wanting to change careers because they've realized they've been in the wrong job, or they simply want to work for specific companies in particular, recognizing that obviously candidates can bring so many transferable skills to new areas? Who would like to answer that one?
I am. Tom is really keen on it.
Well, because I hire a lot of people, so I just think, like, how do I feel about it? I think it depends on the role. You know, like you get. So we've got one of our content editors upstairs, trained as an archaeologist, and has literally no qualifications whatsoever in editing. But she just worked her nuts off in her spare time. And so when it came down to it, we chose her because she was the best at what she did. She had less experience than everyone else. She was just she's the best candidate for the job at that particular task. So that's helpful. But then again, there are other roles where, I've hired someone in sales who has spent 15 years building a sensational network of people who are relevant to growing our business. And so I have hired that person for their experience, because if someone had come to me and said, look, I'm super compelling and I work really hard and I'm a really good salesperson, I'm like, yeah, that's great, but it is going to take you 3 years to get to the same position this person's going to be in. And so I think it does depend on the role. But I think the great thing about today is that from an employment perspective, is there are so many roles that you can become good at in your own time. Like, you can become a social media wizard and be working as an accountant. You can become a data scientist and be working in marketing. Like, there are so many things that you can learn in your spare time, which will make you amazing at that role, and better than other people, because you bring a different lens. And so, yeah, I think that the answer to that question is longer than a minute. Yes.
I completely agree with you. We are exactly the same. Talking about social media, our social media manager, she was a recruiter. But she was absolutely brilliant at her job, and her sausage dog had 4,000 followers. So we were like, you must be good. Wow. And also we hired a role because she knows who she is, but she was so keen on Flexa. She just wanted to work for us. And we were like, we will find you something, because you are clearly brilliant and you will be great for the company. We will shape a role around that. It depends on the role. It depends on what you want.
It really does.
Yeah.
The other one, sorry, my dog is so loud today. So the other one was from the chat. I just put it into the question. So we'd love some advice for recruiters in large organizations who deal with huge volumes of roles and physically can't sit with our hiring managers and educate them that their list of criteria isn't realistic, especially if they're very senior level. Katrina, I feel like you would love to answer that.
Yes, you can. That's it. Full stop. Yes, you can. You need to just reprioritize your time. Like they were talking about, you advertise and you sift through all of these irrelevant applications. Don't shoot it out on a job board straight away, right? You need to reprioritize your time and go like, all I'm doing is spending hours going through applications, not finding anyone because the hiring manager is being so unrealistic, instead of doing the time up front. You absolutely can. Absolutely can. And by the way, if you feel like you can't, there are a ton of companies out there recruiting recruiters. If there's ever been a time to move from one firm to another, I would do that, and it would be the first question I ask. Like, how close do I get to be with my hiring managers? Because the best recruiters, they partner with them like this. Yep. So you can. I know it doesn't feel like it, and you possibly, actually, I had I'll never forget this, a director of talent acquisition who was in Germany, if memory serves, so proud of the fact that her team is so maxed out, they have no time to learn. And I was just like, oh my God, like how many, you are the people who bring in the people. You are so important. And you need to have time to learn. You need to have time to partner and all those sorts of things. If your director or leaders like that, goodbye, go find another job. There are so many recruiter jobs out there at the moment. That's probably not what you wanted to hear, but life's too short. I sense we are all really happy doing the jobs we do, and you can have that. Yep. You don't have to feel stressed that I can't partner with my hiring managers.
Yeah, and we need to stop the glorification of busy. I think at the end of the day, being busy is not necessarily the best thing in the world, even though Tom probably thinks it is.
They'll totally make time for you when they cannot deliver that project. They will make time for you.
Yeah. We have one final question, but I am not sure what it means. So Lisa Bailey, if you want to drop me an email afterwards, or just add me on LinkedIn. It says, are there any system demos available, as that's what we offer to our clients with HRIS? I might be being really stupid, I probably am, but I don't know what that means. And if either myself or Fredrik,
that's what Fredrik thought of it,
can help you. Obviously, if you mean a demo of Teamtailor or Flexa, then hit us up.
Whoa, wait a minute. She might want to play her mates for some money in FIFA. What are you talking about? Could be about me.
Okay, if you would like a demo from any of us, then please do add us on LinkedIn, and we will absolutely be able to help you. Tom, you can give us a row if you want.
I'm just saying, it could be me.
for Teamtailor, absolutely. Fredrik, how should Lisa get in touch with you for Teamtailor?
I think easiest is LinkedIn, because I don't think my face has been promoted anywhere because I was thrown here. Like, it's just connecting on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out the most.
Perfect. That's awesome. Sorry for not understanding that question there. We are 1 minute over time. It has been absolutely wonderful to be able to speak to you all, and obviously our panelists. Thank you so much for your time. You've all been awesome. It's been a super involved discussion. It's very nice to have people have so many opinions and stories and genuinely useful advice. I'm not just saying that, it is pretty good. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a lovely rest of the day.
Thanks. Bye, everyone. Thanks for your
Goodbye.
comments.